Hey, monkey boy. This time I can prove the Israelites weren't black using ChatGPT. Ha!
So that's what we're doing now? Using AI?
What was that? I couldn't hear you over that smoke alarm chirp you people can't hear. Say that again?
Hilarious and original.
Hilarious and original. Hilarious and original. Hilarious and original.
I said, is that what we're doing now? Using AI to prove who the Israelites are?
That's exactly what we're doing, and I'll show you, boy.
Oh, brother.
2 hours later.
Your room still stinks.
Look at how easily ChatGPT debunks everything you chimps have to say. Ha! You was not kings, and you was not Israelites.
If we're gonna use AI, then let's at least use an AI that's trained on the Bible without the Masoretic mistranslations or any agendas and actually tells us the truth.
Liar, there's no such thing.
I'll show you. Let's use Israelite Bot. Go to IsraeliteBot.com and ask the same thing.
Fine, but I bet it'll say the same thing as ChatGPT. No! No!
You see? I told you.
No!
And it shows biblical proof.
No! This is preposterous. I hate this website. It's all wrong.
Stop crying.
Your website sucks.
The Rise of Africa, the continent, the diaspora, and BRICS explores the relationships that are affecting the global economy right now. This book explores the relationships of the African diaspora's influence on the African continent and why this is important in stabilizing relationships with an understanding of how BRICS impacts the future, good or bad. You can order your copy of The Rise of Africa today on Amazon.com.
NeoDiplomacy is the new currency. NeoDiplomacy is the new currency. The reason that I can say that is you have a couple of different factors occurring right now as we speak on the world stage. The dollar is being disrupted. Nations are no longer wanting to engage with the United States. But the third factor that affects each and every one of us is that there is a diaspora from the African continent that's willing and able to engage our brothers and sisters on the continent.
All right, shalom, salama, tiyemi, shalom. Greetings to all of my Israelite brothers and sisters from around the world, whether you're the bloodline of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the house of Israel, or you're a Gentile grafted in to the house under the blood of Yahushua HaMashiach. I welcome you this morning. This morning is an interesting morning. I've been out for a few days, still resting up my voice. It's getting better. It's sounding better. It's just a couple different things here and there. It's going to take a little bit of time. Because, my voice was really jacked up and I needed to heal. I needed it. So I'm still a couple of weeks away. So I think I'll be kind of coming strong. I would say definitely by the end of this month. Um, I may try to come back through, I'm going to say Memorial Day. That's going to be the 26th time frame. Try and do a longer episode, obviously, because it's Memorial Day. But I think I'll do that on Q2 UA. So we have that going. Well, family, I want to, before I get started, I want to throw this on out there. Let me get the link. Let's put that in the chat. There we go. It's the NeoDiplomacy Town Hall. The NeoDiplomacy Town Hall. That will again be this Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I will be co-hosting the town hall with Judge Shar. And this is a link that you can sign up for the town hall. And really, on almost a daily basis, she is finding some things that have been done or is in the process of being done, i.e., like the possible suspension of habeas corpus, basically being detained without cause, and other measures that will impact livelihoods that have been taken to ensure that really freedoms and liberties that had, I would say, been enjoyed. I would say there had been freedoms, there had been some liberties, right? But you have to understand, in captivity, there will be that sense of, well, it's not as bad, right? The captivity's not that bad. And this was, this offering was only the 18th. So it originally, the date was the 11th. That was Mother's Day. It is the 18th. This is the only date for this town hall. Please spread the word far and wide because it impacts every community. Every community is impacted. Now, we know who the primary community is, but understand that every community is impacted because the reality is what we're seeing on the ground in these times ahead is that we're looking at the formation of something different. And that different is not going to be better for them in this case. I was watching one of it's a YouTube commentator that I like to watch. And his name is Sean Fu. S-E-A-N-F OO. And he gives a different analysis because there's a lot of the financial commentators that I look at on a daily basis. I have a right wing, right leaning person, then I have another, this one is, Western specific and Eastern, or excuse me, Western leaning and Eastern leaning. I like to see where everything is on at because I like to really decipher on my own what is happening and what is happening in their eyes. And of course, this is a Caucasian man that believes that you can, uh, on say the Western side, that believes that once you have your charts, you can do whatever you need to do, and it's all based on charts. And yes, that can be the case. However, the reality is this: these 400 years have shown that they are not in the same position that they once had been. Yeah, do they have their charts? Absolutely. But what does the charts mean? Or what does it mean? It has meant that if you understand what's happening, you understand the market manipulation. And it's been a multi-generational market manipulation. And again, I love to give shout outs to Sister Gates Holder because you have to definitely give honor is due when the receipts are brought for what we're seeing ahead. Now, a lot of folks will say that the trade war was won by Trump, and then you'll have on the other camp the trade war was lost by Trump. But I'm going to say, honestly, I still believe that the jury is still out on that one. But as far as I can tell, just based off of numbers alone and based off of even having to provide tariffs, the reality is this: if you are losing global influence and shutting down embassies and even having to engage in trade wars on the rest of the world by tariffs, to me, the war has already been lost. Because when you have to start making outright declarations of the situation, that means that you're screaming in pain. When you start to yell out the yelps and the screams and things of that nature and the gas because people are gasping for air, understand that the chokehold that has been done is now starting to sting. And the reality of it is that everything that has been done or is being do or that they're experiencing right now, they've done that to the rest of the nations. And now it's America's turn to kind of feel the squeeze or the chokehold per se. And that chokehold is not a very good chokehold. That chokehold is now having a lot of people gasping for air because the reality is this: even with the tariffs kind of coming to what, a 90-day pause or sensation, I'm going to tell you what's going to end up happening. Because it's going to happen from you know whose side, this side of the water, right here, located between the Pacific and the Atlantic. and you'll have some folks in DC, and they will be saying that, well, they were negotiating on quote unquote good faith, but they had X and Y, and they were trying to dump their goods, and they were trying to do this, and they were trying to do. Look, there's always going to be some sort of it's going to be a stupid factor. To me, it's a great hoard in what you can hoard in, and then after 90 days, another siege work. Because why? Because you have to get the people docile and complacent over the summer. That's what that did. Now, will there be as many ships? Honestly, I don't know. And the reality of it is that if you are a country that's now looking at all of this stuff happening, well, the reality is that you're going to start looking at going elsewhere. So the power that was once in the hands of the United States is no longer in the hands of the United States. And they understand this. I believe, to me, just personally speaking, this is the last tranche of getting in all the products that needs to come in, and then there's going to be some sort of a formal hostility. Watch. Just watch right after this trade war. Just watch. Now, I'm not gonna say not after the trade war, it's still going on, but right after this cessation, this stoppage, look how quickly they will pivot to Taiwan. They won't give it a full 24 hours. I guarantee you by this afternoon, they're going to talk about Taiwan, or they're going to talk about um, undue influence in Africa. Because I'm going to tell you that's why Langley was there. That's the positioning that's there. This is why the speech that Ibrahim Traore had made, and I'm going to say the interview that he had sat down and had back on May 10th, why that was so powerful. Because it was signaling to the West and the rest of the world that there was not a truce of sorts. What do you mean the truce of sorts? Let me tell you. Shout out to Sister Chantel, because we had this this talk over the weekend. If you understood the Victory Day parade, and if you understood what was kind of the underlying theme, everyone has a theme, everyone has a thematic situation and why they're presenting something. Well, the theme that Russia and China had was that, well, number one, they created stronger ties. And number two, the military forces became much more integrated. But the third biggest factor was the fact that they had stated, Russia and China had stated, that they are not going to go with an historical narrative that's not true. And the biggest bomb that we all know that is about to get dropped is going to be that proverbial cat that's going to be let out the bag. Now, how they'll let it out the bag, it's going to be very interesting. Who will let it out the bag? That's going to be the question. Because the biggest bomb that would be let out the bag is obviously our identity, but it's not going to be by the current players that we believe is coming from the United States or Russia or China. I honestly believe that that bomb will probably drop from the Vatican. I believe that that may come from the Pope himself. Now, as I looked at that and as I was thinking about that, well, how much consideration can you have when you have a pope that's number one from America, number two from Chicago, and the third factor is mixed? Now, I know a lot of people are celebrating that. However, there still is a one drop rule. And on top of that, he was a very progressive. He's known to be very progressive along the lines with the last pope. Yeah, he's Creole. So now this becomes a little bit of a quandary because now understand you have a little bit of the dumb diverses action, not a little bit, you have a lot of it. And you have it from the seat of power of the declaration of where it was made. Obviously, the end of these hostilities will have to come from the seat of power that declared those hostilities back in 1453. Because why? Have you not realized how the people here in America have begun to lose their minds? And we know that population group. And with that population group, They just can't help themselves. Unfortunately. And all of these situations are coming through on the world stage as airplanes are not able to take off at Newark. You know, it's funny because last year, Garth and I were flying. We flew out of Newark International Airport to go to Lomé, Togo. And now all of a sudden, Newark International is basically down for the count. And on top of that, now all of a sudden, flights are getting ready to have issues. I want to post this link and I want to share this because I want you to understand how things are going to be threatened in terms of being able to not just communicate, but then being able to travel. Flights could be disrupted across U.S. Transportation Secretary warns after a series of problems at New York Liberty International Airport. The Secretary, Sean Duffy, said that he would meet with airline leaders to plan a scaling back of Newark flights. As New York Liberty International Airport, one of the nation's busiest airports, struggled with technological disruptions and staffing shortages, Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy warned in a television interview that more U.S. airports could face similar disruptions as the busy summer travel season approached. Interesting. So now you're telling me that now there's issues with being able to travel. No, I really think that because of the volume of people that are not going to be coming to the United States, I believe that this is kind of the this is the scapegoat that's right here. So he said in the interview that he would meet with the leaders of major airlines this week to create a plan for scaling back flights at Newark. So understand that if you're going to scale back flights in Newark, all of a sudden you're going to start to see more major airports that will be involved in this process because of how things get connected. That's what I believe, Tracy Brinson. Yes, they are leaving here and they are moving towards locking us in. Absolutely. But they don't want to tell you that, you know, folks are not coming into the United States. It's been historical lows in April and May, and people aren't booking in June, July, and August. Matter of fact, they're having layoffs at hotels all across the United States. Matter of fact, they've even announced for plans for scaling back at Disney World. Orlando is about to take a major hit because it's a major tourism spot. This has now gone into the realm of, well, all I can say is, let me put that link back up. All I can say is, you better join us on May 18th at 1 p.m. Sign up to join us on May 18th at 1 p.m. Eastern Central Time. For the NeoDiplomacy Town Hall. Proceeds from the event go towards the medical shipping container. You know, last year when I had traveled to Burkina Faso with Garth, I was traveling under conditions that, yeah, as we saw things were bad. But this year, things are dramatically and markedly worse. It is remarkable to see the decline that's prevalent. And now being able to understand of how to communicate within these social media spaces, because why? You don't know what type of bill is going to be wrapped up that will suspend habeas corpus. You don't know what type of situation will be happening. Can you imagine for people to just be detained and not know what's going on? And yes, that's another one. The Afrikaners coming to the United States. That's another one. So they talk about the refugees, but do you know that all these refugees, do you know the amount of money that they get? Oh yeah, understand refugee status. They supposedly they get the one time payment to resettlement. Then they'll get refugee cash assistance. And there's also different funds and support. And not to mention, you will also have their own private organizations that will support them. Because why? Because in this initial wave, they got to do what? They got to sell other folks. Hey, I was here. I was the first one to get X, Y, and Z, and I got X, Y, and Z. Do you see where this is going? I'm telling y'all, we got to get this container over to Burkina Faso immediately. If you don't know how this world works, then I don't know what to tell you. All I know is that the time that I had to tell you, that time is quickly fleeting. Because understand, everything that will be mentioned will be then a derogatory. Truth will be derogatory. It's not 1984, it's 2025. I mean, think about this. Do you know how quickly they put the brakes on people of African descent? Especially here, as primarily descendants of the transatlantic slave trade. When Burkina Faso was offering citizenship, all you had to do was pay the fee. Do you see how quickly the United States shut that down? Oh, they shut that thing down real quick. Not only did the United States shut that down, but they sent in a person of African descent, a puppet. And we get puppets in here too. I get it. That was the first country, one of the first of many countries, I'm going to say, in this modern era But with that, then they offered $5 million to take out a leader that was literally talking to the children of the transatlantic slave trade. Two sticks attempting to come back together. If you didn't know why the scripture says that our enemies hold us fast, our enemies do. And now you're in the season where this is now lawfare. So now all of these laws and all these decrees and all these executive orders are going to be passed at a rapid pace. And they're only going to ramp it up even more. They're going to ramp it up to the point of how do you even communicate in these social media spaces? What can you even say in these social media spaces? Because now think about it. Did they do away with habeas corpus? You may say something in the social media sphere that could be deemed as unacceptable. Nobody knows that you got arrested or detained. Nobody knows that you got locked up. Unless people come searching and trying to find out through county records. What did this person do? What did they say? What happened? We can't release that information just yet. And then they'll have that person sitting and spinning in the system until oblivion. A lot of people thought that it was going to be these FEMA camps and everything else. No. And if you didn't know, that's actually what started to happen. And that got signed April 23rd. So even with me, I have to be very careful of how I message things. These laws have changed. How reassuring is that if somebody says, I don't know if I can fully comply with the Constitution of the United States? That should give at least a pause for concern. That should at least cause some sort of thought process of what does that mean for me and my family. Could I be indiscriminately targeted? And the answer is yes. Yes, you actually could. That's the answer. Yes, you could. And this isn't to scare anybody, but it's to all make you aware of the times that we're living in. See, the funny thing is that they went after me financially. I told you all, speaking up in these spaces, the only thing I don't have is just my name on this. But you all know my name because I put my name on out there. This was a cost. And now people are going to have to pay cost unwillingly because they're going to have to pay the cost of the system. Are you going to be paying the cost to do righteous, or are you going to be paying the cost to do wicked? Everything is a cost associated with this. This is what judgment is. It's better to be judged among the righteous than to be judged among the wicked. The cost of standing up, the cost of putting your voice on out there and asking for donations for a shipping container full of wonderful medical supplies. And let me tell you this, family, it has been awesome to see how the Most High works. We have about to the end of this week to get the remaining funds. We're still sitting around, I would say, $4,000 to $5,000. To have the remainder of the funds over to our vendor. But we still have to raise the remaining, now about, I would say, quick math, about 15 to 18,000. To have the container make it to Burkina Faso. And you know what? That little bit of a kind gesture opens up so many doors. I wish you all could experience what I'm working and doing and talking and negotiating through in the background. They have been delighted to see us come together as a people. Here's the thing, don't worry about if you're trying. I know our people. I know our people. This is the time to open up your mouths and let the community know. Your mouth could impact at least 2 to 300 people on a daily basis. I think there was a study that showed that on a daily basis, on average, we come into contact with at least 25 people a day. You are the influence. We have to be able to think higher than what has been imposed on us in our captivity. The Most High has literally given us all the tools. And you know what that biggest tool is? It's praise. Praise. The Most High literally blesses the works of our hands. He gives us help from our enemies. He gives us favor. He sets out a table in the presence of our enemies. Do you understand all of the declarations that David was doing? We're walking through the valley of the shadow of death. They're trying to give us shadows. They're trying to scare us and make us fearful. But understand who is with us. The Most High is with us. And I'm telling you, seeing the Most High's hands move over his people, that is an awesome thing to witness. We can go on out there buying $220 Jordans that they just showed you only cost $10 to make in the factory. What does that mean? That's putting money in their pockets. For $10, $15 worth of material. How crazy is that? To get in a trade war that at the end of the day, the prices go on the consumers. Notice how they couldn't answer that question. Who ultimately plays businesses and the consumers. All of a sudden, 2 days later, 3 days later, you realize that America lost round one of the trade wars, if you didn't know. When you lose round by round by round, at the end of the fight, you're going to get knocked out. They went tumbling to the ropes for 90 days. Because they lost the first round, if you didn't know. They stumbled back to the corner. And now you have to have the cut men coming through and say, oh, everything is good. Don't worry that, he's looking like that. It'll clear up by the fourth round. He's just getting into his stride and yada, yada. No, what ended up happening was China showed their supremacy over the United States. All of the, well, they won't need to worry about that. All of that crazy nonsense. And it was. That they all had the upper hand. You all have to understand we've been given over to a foolish people. We've been given over to a foolish nation. And now the rest of the world is seeing them for who they are. And really, it's a marvel to witness. But understand this in these times ahead. It's only going to get more dangerous for us. Because what ends up happening when they've taken L's? Who gets the beating first? I don't know about anybody that has lived with an abuser or been in a situation of abuse. But I had experienced that with my in-laws. It's not a good situation. Because then you try to help that person that had been abused. because you've witnessed the situation. The dynamics. See, what the abuser does is they project on out. They project on themselves. And then they project on others. And if you've been in proximity with someone that has been in an abusive relationship, they believe and they feel that they're going to be able to fix the problem of that person. The only time they realize that they're in trouble is that when they cry for help. There's a cry for help. But let me tell you this also, that person being abused will then project their abuse on others. It's a vicious cycle. They'll project that on their kids. Then those kids will project it on their kids. It's a vicious cycle. And now you're kind of seeing what's happening because a lot of the quote unquote kids, the children here of the abusers, they try to say it's a quote unquote woke generation. No, actually, what they're doing is they're trying to disassociate from the cycle of abuse because they realize the abuse and the toll that it's taken. They've realized that it's taken the toll on the money. But when you're an abuser, guess what you're going to do? You're just going to continue to abuse and abuse and abuse until two things happen. You either get arrested or you self-delete yourself. And that's not fun to deal with. That wasn't fun to deal with. I'd had to deal with that when I was 22 years old. And I had to deal with the fallout so that it did not affect my family. We're going to be dealing with fallouts so it doesn't affect us and it doesn't affect the generations that come after us. We're going to have to be the ones that stand up to protect the generation of children that I see and I'm dealing with every single day that are lost beyond recognition, beyond comparison. I believe, honestly, I'm sorry, but I believe half of these kids that I deal with, half of them are demonically possessed. I do. And it's really not funny. Half the kids that I deal with, man, I see that they've been abused. So, are we going to step up as a people? Are we going to be the generation that breaks this generational curse? Or are we going to continue to listen to the lies? Because here's the thing, you don't have any other choice. And literally, you don't have much time. You really don't. Part of breaking that generational curse is standing up and talking and letting people know we have a container on its way to Burkina Faso, and we would love for people to support that. We're not done yet. We're going to be done when this container gets into the hands of the people of Burkina Faso. It'll make it to Ghana, but we need it to make it to Burkina Faso. We need to let them know that we hear them and that we love them. Because why? Because they're our family. How wicked is somebody to tell you that they're not family? How wicked is that? You know, they separated you too if you're saying that they're not our family. And then they use our family to tell them that we're not family. That is so wicked. They would say, not in a million years would that ever happen to me. Happen to us. But boy, oh boy, look at us. Family, please join us this Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time at the NeoDiplomacy Town Hall.com. I'm putting this right here. Please sign up. Please let people know. Sister Shar will be breaking down the legal implications of what's happening and what you can do to be able to protect yourself and your families, to be able to move and to mitigate. We have to move in wisdom at these times. We have to. We don't have any other choice. So with that said, family, Most High willing, you'll see me tomorrow. Thank you again, family, for your support of this channel. I know I've been asking for support for all the other initiatives. I do appreciate you all support for this channel. Everything that I'm doing on these initiatives, they all go to the initiative. And that initiative right now is a container. So your support of the channel through Cash App or PayPal or Zelle, that really does mean a lot, family. So I'm going to leave it like that. So I'll continue to go and move as long as the Most High has me. Again, I said I'm his servant. So just letting you know that. But with that, I'm definitely a little bit over my time and I got to get up on out of here. So with that said, family, shalom, salama, siyemi, shalom, peace and blessings. Yasharel.